Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Well, in my addressing of questions I see online, today's could be a massive one. I'm going to try to really knock it down into a more manageable piece without addressing everything independently. And I think you'll see in a second why it could be so big. But the questions that I see are all pretty much the same, but they're a little bit different depending upon what it is that they're addressing. And pretty much the question comes up to be this: should I allow my camera to shoot in full auto mode, in program mode? Should I allow my photo editing program to auto-correct all my images? Should I get an AI program, which is artificial intelligence, to do the culling of my images? Should I use an AI program to retouch my images? Should I use an AI program to do this, that, and the other thing? Now, AI, artificial intelligence, or full auto on a camera, or program mode, or anything like that. Let's address it all as one big lump sum. I don't care what it is, but as of today, and it's December 2021, there's nothing out there that I have seen in 36 plus years of doing photography that can take the place of a good photographer. I don't care if it's a camera with auto mode on it. I don't care if it's a camera with the best focusing mode on it. I don't care if it's an editing program that can auto cull images or that can go through and sharpen images automatically or do this or that, the other things. They can do some of it, but they can't do all of it. And this is the big problem, is a lot of people have gotten lazy. A lot of people have gotten complacent. A lot of people don't have the training or the experience to be able to do it themselves, so they're relying on this auto. Just the other day, one of the sites I'm on, somebody asked about autofocus. And somebody made a comment as soon as they asked about autofocus, and I'm not even going to go through all the comments, but yes, get a mirrorless camera was one of them. But they went through and they says, there's no reason ever to use manual focus. And I went, seriously, ever? What about astrophotography? What about shooting in a real dark place? What about? To say never is a stupid comment to make. Sure, cameras today have improved so much that autofocus is really, really good. And again, I don't care if it's a DSLR, I don't care if it's a mirrorless camera, I don't care if it's a point and shoot camera. The autofocus has improved so much on cameras that it can do a lot. But there's some things that it cannot do. And it's just manual focus still has a place. Is it as much as before? No. But if you know what you're doing and you know when to switch from autofocus to manual focus, or you know when to change different focus modes and so on and so forth, you can do a lot more than your camera ever could on full auto. Likewise, exposures. Again, I've addressed it in a previous video. My pictures are overexposed. My pictures are underexposed and overexposed. My pictures. Well, a lot of that isn't equipment problems, but it's the photographer not knowing when to change the equipment settings. They don't know when to use spot mode. They don't know when to use this mode. They don't know when to use that mode. They don't know when to use exposure compensation. They just don't know. And add on to that, they don't know their cameras well enough to even be able to do it if they wanted to do it. Perfect example, about 10 years ago, I was asked to go to a camera club. It's funny, they don't ask me anymore. It's kind of a weird thing. And when I was there giving my talk, somebody went off about how they buy a new camera every time a camera comes out. Well, I knew a lot of these people because it's a local camera club. And the person was going on and on and on about how they've got the best camera, how their camera does everything, and I asked them, I said, so, have you ever tried this with your camera? And they looked at me and they said, well, no, my camera can't do that. And it's like, well, actually, the last 3 cameras that you bought were able to do that. So this camera is really able to do that. You see, the problem was they didn't even know the functions and the features on their camera. They didn't even get to know the camera before they went to the next camera. And it's getting even worse with people. People just don't know their equipment. People just don't understand basic camera settings. People don't understand how to set the ISO, how to set the shutter speed, how to set the aperture. They just don't know it. So they've gotten lazier and lazier and lazier, and they're relying on the camera to do all of that. Going into programs, there's a lot of people out there that use AI programs to do their culling. It goes through and it culls 1,000 images down to 200, 250, 300 automatically. Well, in some situations, it works. If you have 5 pictures which are identical, it compares them, it checks them out, and it may get you the best picture. But you know what? I would rather myself go through and hit the delete button myself so that I'm picking the pictures that I know are good than to rely on a computer to do it for me, especially if I'm presenting these to a client. It doesn't take that long. If you have a good program set up, a good system set up, you can easily do that. But a lot of these people have gotten to the point where they become lazy and they don't want to do it. Some send out to people who do editing. That's great. Again, if you don't know, though, as a photographer, what you want, what is a good picture in your book, to send it out to somebody else, to rely on a program to do it, is just insane. You need to be able to have that training, that knowledge, that experience yourself so that you know what you're looking for, you know what you want. And then that way, if the editing program or your editor doesn't do a good job, you know what the problem is. You know where there's a difference between what you want and what they've done. Likewise with editing programs. And I'm hearing more and more and more about editing programs. Oh, I just let it autocorrect, auto this, auto. Seriously? You don't know what it's doing? You're just letting it do it? Had a lady the other day come into the studio for some printing. I says, you know your reds are really, really oversaturated. She goes, no, they're not. I says, your reds are really oversaturated. They're past fire engine red. They are really oversaturated. She goes, no, they can't be. And so I pulled it up on the monitor and I showed her and she still couldn't see it. So I did a print of it, a 4x6. I walked it out. I put it down in front of her. She goes, whoa, is that red ever oversaturated? I says, yeah. She goes, oh, I just let my program do all the corrections for me. But if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know when a red shirt is too red or when the skin looks like a lobster skin, you're going to accept what a lot of these programs are doing and you're not going to question it and your quality is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Likewise with focusing. I know one person in particular locally that lets their computer do all the sharpening for them. They don't even adjust a thing. They just run it through this and it's supposed to sharpen everything perfectly for them. Well, some of their stuff looks really good. I gotta say, it looks actually quite good. A lot of their stuff looks horrible. And I don't mean like bad. I mean horrible. And when I show them what it's done, when I show them artifacts around hair, around the eyes, around the nose and the mouth, that it's over sharpened it, they just don't understand it. When I show them a picture that's not over sharpened and compare them, they go, wow, there is a difference. So yes, use technology, know when it will work, but also know what you're doing and what you could do or what a picture should look like so that you can take that control of it. There's nothing wrong with using autofocus. There's nothing wrong with using program mode. I love program mode. That was one of the modes I would switch to when I was doing a wedding ceremony. The bride was coming down the aisle. The lights changed from the bride coming into the church to the bride getting in the foyer to the bride getting into the coming down the aisle. And as she was moving through on program mode, it was great because it was correcting for me. And then once she got in and she was down at the front, I could switch then to manual. I could switch then to aperture priority. I could switch to shutter priority. I love program because it was able to adjust for all the different light sources really fast. It worked great, but I also knew when the difference with what the difference would do when I switched it over to manual. So get to know your equipment, get to know how to do stuff, rely on some of these auto things for some stuff, but don't get carried away and let the camera or your software do it all for you. So until next time, have a great day. I hope you get out there and take some amazing pictures, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.